Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Uncovering Creativity. I know it's been a while since you've seen me. Life happens. With me today is Eddie. I've met Eddie back in I think it was 2016, 2015. We were part of a men's group, and Eddie's played a huge role in my growth and me being where I am today. Um, yeah, I'll give Eddie an opportunity to introduce himself, and I'm really looking forward to this episode. So, Eddie, you want to take the steering wheel? Oh,
Hey
hey,
Chad. Hey, my phone overheated. I was doing this on my phone, so I'm on my laptop now.
okay.
Um, yeah. Well, maybe we can pick up from the last part where you left off, where we left off
I think
before we got
I don't
disconnected.
know what point you got disconnected, but I was talking about just acknowledging somebody when you're at, like, if you're at a grocery store, you're picking something up, even if you're doing
Right,
drive through,
right.
right? Like, one thing I've noticed is just when you actually stop, take a second, and you control that. Like, you can control that interaction, right? And this is what we're saying is the fine tuning, right? If you're gonna stand there for 5 seconds, it's gonna make someone feel uncomfortable. You know what I mean? If you
Yeah,
stand there for a
yeah,
second, look the person in the eye and be like, "How are you doing today?" You'd be surprised at the response that the other person will give you. And the point I was trying to make is a lot of time when you do things like that, you shake people out of their unconscious. I'm at work. I'm doing this. I'm scanning this thing, and you bring them to the present moment. So the only point I was trying to
yeah,
make is just
yeah.
the how the world almost becomes like a sandbox for you to test all the things you're learning about yourself with other people to see how you can fine tune things to kind of calibrate to get yourself be able to express yourself without making anybody feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, by being sensitive to people and calibrating, but also not just giving into the so-called matrix and the way in which we all are. So I had a similar experience actually recently when I was at a coffee shop, and so the the woman at the cashier said to me, like, "Hi, how are you?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm good. How you doing?" And she said, "I'm good. What can I get you?" And then I just joked around. I said, wait a minute. I asked you how you're doing. How you doing?" And they just shook her out of
Yeah,
this, like, this automatic way of being. And yeah, we had a moment that wasn't transactional anymore.
exactly.
It's like a human
Yeah,
moment. It was like, "Hey, how's it going? I'm really asking you." Cool. Okay. All right. So you're busy. It's a lot of people, but overall you're having a good day. Awesome. Yeah. I'll get an Americano. Thank you very much. I hope you have a great rest of your day. But we had a nice, like, we just had a little
yeah.
moment, and that's just
you know what it
nice. And you can,
you know what
yeah.
it is too. For that moment, she felt seen,
Mm-hmm.
and I think the one thing people tend to, yeah, we're having interaction. She took my order, but you didn't see her. Like, you didn't see that
Yeah.
person. Another example I had is similar to the coffee shop. Um, I was at Starbucks once. I had my laptop, was doing some work. There's a little bit of a rush, so I decided to wait, calm down. I went up there. I'm like, "Hey, how are you doing today?" I'm fine. Da, 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 da. How are you? It's like, "Oh, it's kind of busy. I know. I saw the big lineup and everything came in. Can I just get this and this?" And after I pull my card out to pay, she's like, "Don't worry about it." I'm like, "Excuse me?
Mm.
Don't worry about it." I'm like, "Oh, thank you. You didn't have to do that." Just wanted to see how your day was going. Like, I didn't. It's like, "No, it's fine. I appreciate you asking." And I was like, "Okay, wow, thank you." But it's just like,
Yeah.
I didn't set out with an intention of wanting to say this to get anything free, just having a genuine interaction. And I realized that a lot of the time, like, people just want to feel seen.
Mm.
And even just acknowledging the fact that, yeah, I know this was kind of crazy for the last couple minutes. Like, you're feeling better now. Everything's cool. It's like, yeah, I'm feeling. But just like that little interaction, like you said, like, we had a little moment, and like, I remember that
Yeah.
moment, right? And that's what I say all this to go full circle. Like, a lot of the times we can use our environments. For me personally, has been the hospitality industry, where I've been able to utilize my 20s essentially to kind of calibrate myself, to kind of get an idea of who I am, who I think I am, and how I want to present myself to the world. And I think it's gotten to a point now where, maybe because I'm older and I have a little bit of gray hair, but I even have younger people calling me sir, which kind of throws me. It kind of
Yeah.
throws me off, right? But it's just one of those things where it's when you have the ability to observe yourself and calibrate and then go out into the world, it gives you a bit more control of how you can engage with your environment and the people surrounding you.
Yeah, like you can make a choice in that moment, and it's uncomfortable because it's not what most people do. It's not. I'll just call it the matrix.
Yep.
You know, there's a certain way of going into a coffee shop, and it's typically extremely transactional. You know, and most of the time people snap out of it when something very out of the ordinary happens. For example, there's like, for me or somebody else, I don't know, there's an incredibly attractive cashier that just takes it, it brings you into like a collision with the present moment, where it's just, you're not just, it's no longer just this I want coffee, it's this person is captivating my
Yeah.
attention. And then you share a moment, and then people have a story and they say, well, yeah, we held eye contact and there was clearly a moment, and you know, and I kept seeing him, and then, you know, we started to talk. But that's kind of a lucky thing, right? You can take a moment and see somebody and like have a more human
Hmm. Hmm.
experience, right? Like, as you said, to really see somebody.
There's so many stories of just like becoming or like trying these things out. And I think for
Yeah.
me personally, even with the podcast and everything, I think the one thing for me has been trying to overcome fear.
Hmm.
Um, I've jumped out of planes. I've done crazy things. Can you tell us some of the things that you've done to challenge yourself and to dive deeper into self discovery and how you've challenged some of your fears?
um Sure. And also, let's not forget all the incredible things you've done yourself. Um, yeah, a big part of overcoming my fears has been around the social realm,
Hmm.
and
And
yeah,
I will
I
say this:
mean,
I giggled to myself just now because me and Eddie have hung out and we've both gone out of our way to do things that are uncomfortable to challenge that fear. So I can see moments where Eddie and I have both done certain things, but I just really want him to share some of the things that he's done that allowed him to kind of overcome that, especially having indulged a bit of acting and having that tool chest as well. I think it'd be really cool to paint that picture.
yeah, I mean, so things come to mind that happened
Hmm.
recently, but yeah, I think the scariest thing for me as a man has always been to, you know, go up to a cute girl and tell her that I thought she was attractive and strike up a conversation, or not even, but just to strike up a conversation with someone who I feel is very attractive, and that for me has always been, you know, it's a scary thing because it's yeah, it's not something you typically do. You see it in the movies, but it's something you can do, and I think yeah. So you know, I've done some scary things, like when I felt an authentic, genuine moment, like, wow, there is this person who is moving my entire being. I just don't know why. I'm so drawn to them.
Hmm.
I'm so curious about them. And yeah, then there was this decision that was made inside of me, and it was something like, you know, you have to seize this moment. You have to do something about it, because if you don't, then the regret is going to be a lot more painful.
Mm.
So, you know, and
Regret.
I've made a fool out of myself. I've done silly things, but yeah, it's, you know, an incredibly scary thing to do, even though I don't think it should be. But yeah, to go up to someone at a park and just to, you know, just to tell them, you know, just say, you could just say hi. But I've gone as far as to say, like, I was moved by your whatever, and It's an incredibly scary thing to do, and I'm deliberately not
Oh,
even
yeah.
sharing all these many all these details, and I don't really know why. I just it feels I think very vulnerable um, to do that. I don't know why, but yeah, um,
I think it just. I think that's that fear of just going up to anybody you find attractive, maybe it's physically attractive or just something about them just like sparks something in you. I think that fear is. Do you think that fear is always going to be there?
yeah,
Yeah, never goes
definitely,
away.
yeah. No, I don't think so. I think it's like anytime you if you say you want to jump in a cold shower, it's
Oh
never
god,
the fear of the cold water is never, that experience is it's it's going to feel a
I
certain
just got
way.
shivers,
And I
man.
think it's even yeah, we'll get you in an ice bath soon. And I think I think with a person, they're a lot more complex than just cold water,
Hmm.
right? So there's a feeling of there's unpredictability in how the social interaction might go. There's an unpredictability with how they're going to respond, and yeah, our minds tend to assume that it's going to go in a negative way when in fact it may be very positive. But yeah, that fear to protect us from people around us seeing people around us seeing the experience that may be negative there's some very deep anxiety that tries to keep you away from doing that,
Hmm.
because it just there's a feels very socially vulnerable. And it's sad, I think, because there's really nothing, if you do it in a respectful and calibrated way, it's really a really beautiful thing, I think, to why should online dating be the only medium to meet people?
Yeah.
Why should why should it be weird to go up to someone and say hi? So yeah, for sure some people might be weird about it, but if you can do it in a calibrated way, it's a beautiful gift. You're seeing someone and offering something. But yeah, very can be very socially vulnerable.
Hmm.
And yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's other ways that I've challenged myself, but for sure, I think over the years, like on the topic of boundaries, it's just been interesting to notice how the time when I feel my boundary being crossed to the moment when I say something, that time has diminished
Interesting.
over the course of the years. Over the years, so and it's always scary to do it for me because I'm naturally conflict
Yeah.
avoidant, and so.
I actually had a a situation at work a couple weeks ago where
Mm.
this gentleman called me out of my name. Um, and one thing that I realized that I need to calibrate, because to some people, I'm very just overall, I'm a very chill, calm guy.
Mhm.
Not I'm very stoic. So I have to. One thing I had to actually stop and kind of calibrate is, or was, to some people, me setting a boundary, even though I'm just doing it as calmly as I am, calmly as possible, can still sound very aggressive. Not very aggressive, but still sound kind of stern to other people. I guess my
Yeah.
conflict with that is I'm not even raising my voice. I'm not doing anything outside of the ordinary, but just me being me was enough to make someone else or someone witnessing that feel uncomfortable. How do you
Mm.
how do you find the line between I'm being myself, being respectful, still calibrating, but still coming off? People are still picking up something that you may not think is there. That makes sense. Because
Yeah, it does. No, it's great. I think it comes down to how people have learned to be around you, like what they've expected
yeah.
from you. So if your entire life you've been a certain way, then they've their brains are learning about you, and there's these subconscious expectations about how you're gonna
Hmm.
be in their presence, and so they're not used to seeing that other part of you. They're maybe not used to uh, they're not used to having you even set a boundary or many boundaries, and so Anything that you say that's starting to push back, it challenges that
Yep.
expectation that they've already that's been embedded in your dynamic with them, and so they experience it in a, yeah, perhaps in a more aggressive way, even though that's not how you mean it to sound or come off.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think it's a matter of I wouldn't even say it's something that like you need to change. If you're not being aggressive, you're just being assertive with them, that's a good thing. But yeah, maybe you're putting in a little bit too much, that's unnecessary, or maybe it's just that they're not used to it. It's just new for the dynamic and they have to get used to it. So you just have to, if this is something new that you're doing, you have to understand that the dynamic is being shifted in your relationship with these people, and that it's going to take time to adjust. And it's not like you're doing anything bad. Their reaction does not mean you did anything wrong. It's just
You hit the
that,
nail right on the head. And I
yeah,
think that's one of the key things that I think when people begin, and that's the one thing that acting taught me, right?
yeah,
You can do what you need to do within the comfort of this scene, drop it at the end of it, and you're fine. But when you apply this into the real world, especially with people that are so used to you, the second you do something that's kind of outside of the norm of what they expect, it makes them uncomfortable. And I think when my looking back on it, it wasn't that I did anything wrong. It was just that the people that are around me have not witnessed me set a boundary like that, especially in a respectful
mm,
way. Because there's like the
yeah,
the whole like it's an all-encompassing thing. It's not just that your voice changes, your demeanor changes. Like you embody, hey, this you made me uncomfortable. I'm setting a boundary. Please don't do that again. Simple as that.
yeah,
Have you
yeah.
have you experienced anything like that where you set out to maybe do set a boundary or set out to do something and the response you've gotten from the outside has been something that you had to kind of go back and kind of reevaluate?
Yeah, yeah, of course. And I think everybody goes through that because you're redefining the structure of your relationship, and the dynamic is changing. And for the most part, that's it isn't something that's conscious. It's
Hmm.
subconscious, and yeah, and people don't like that. I mean, people like they feel comfortable with what is and what they know, even if that comfort, sorry, even if that dynamic isn't necessarily beneficial for all, but it's just what they know, so that's what they feel comfortable with. And so as soon as, like as soon as you make a change, it the these alarm bells go off, and it's like, okay, well, there's something up here, something's different, and it makes them feel anxious, and most people will try to uh, keep you in the place that you are because that's what they
Yeah.
know, and they don't really want you to change. And I think this is where deep awareness, would be appreciated from people. You can't expect that, but if someone is making a change in their lives, and it's happening in your dynamic with them, like, that's, I think that's something to be honored and respected. It's not comfortable, but if you were to tell me, hey, Eddie, if I'm a very close friend of yours, and you say I'm working on my assertiveness skills, and you might notice things change over time. I might start to speak up more than you're used to, and you hope that I give you support, and I give you that support. That's wonderful. You don't usually tell people
Hmm.
this, and it would be nice if they gave you support. They just noticed, oh, this person just set a boundary. Like, what a that's good. They're asserting themselves, and that's okay. They're letting me know what they don't like, and they're saying it respectfully. But that doesn't really happen because they're not used to
Yeah.
that. And yeah, of course, I've gone through that, especially with people who are closest to you, like your mom and dad, and they're just used to you being a certain way. And what's important is that if you know that what you're doing is authentic to you, it's important to you. You've gotten clear with the importance of saying no, for example, to somebody. You have to stick to that,
Hmm.
despite their the fight that the fight that they'll give you.
It sounds like intention is a key is like a key word for a lot of the things we're talking about, even with the acting. Because
Yeah,
you mentioned before that like you can tell doing your eye the 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 gazing exercise that you can tell when somebody's acting or putting on a front. Um,
Yeah.
Intention. What does that word mean to you?
Before I answer about intention, I'll just quickly say that the other thing that came to mind was compassion, knowing that um, when you make a change in the way that you communicate will make other people feel uncomfortable
Hmm.
because you're perturbing the dynamic. Even having compassion for them because they may, to them it's a big change. For example, if you've never set boundaries with them before and you're starting to do that now, it's a huge change. So like just to have compassion and to realize that if the same thing happened, if the tables were turned, you too would probably feel uncomfortable,
Hmm.
right? So yeah, that's a helpful thing. But um intention, yeah, I mean, what's your intention in this case? Well, your intention is to get more in touch with your own inner voice. What is it that you want? What is it that you feel? What is it that's important to you? What is it that's in line with your values, with your principles, and what is it that you really want to say here, and what needs to be said, and just making and having an intention to honor those parts of you, and not in a quote unquote radically honest way where you're just saying
Yeah.
whatever, and then you could just say, well, I'm just being honest here, and you're really just being rude or insulting, but you're honoring yourself and what's important to you. And your intention is to give light to those parts of you, because I mean, I speak about my experience. I want to be more me in the world.
Hmm.
That's my goal, and so my intention is to be more me. And so if I set that intention out, then I think I'm losing my train of thought here, but I yeah, I honor those parts of me, and I communicate from that place, and always having compassion for the other person, that they may not be used to this, they might not know about this. This is new for them too. This is making them feel, there's perturbing the dynamics, so it's making them feel anxious, and but just because that may be happening on their end doesn't mean that the changes that are happening within myself are wrong and I should change them. No, to stick to the intention to honor my inner
Hmm.
voice, um, and to stay true to that, and comes down to like the minimum effective dose. Just keep giving what you need to give, what you need to say, and no more. No more than what's necessary. Minimum effective dose, and over time, people will adjust
Hmm.
and get used to the quote unquote new you, even though it's just the more real
Hmm.
you. Yeah.
I was just thinking about my parents in terms of the compassion. Um,
Yeah.
I think one of the reasons as to why I'm very fortunate to have done a lot of the creative things that I've set out to do is because, for one, my parents instilled and the teachers that I had growing up as well instilled an amazing set of values that I've been able to hold on to well into adulthood. And one of those
Mm.
being curiosity, education, community is a huge one. And just looking back on our friendship, when we first started, when I first met you, essentially, I was looking
Mm.
for community. I was looking for a community. I was looking for a group of guys that were open to going into the cave and slaying a dragon, whatever dragon that might have been. Um,
Hmm.
and I think one thing that I've learned through therapy that's been huge value is community. And it was just always something that was in the back of my head, but never really. I was always looking for it, but never actually had the intention to set out and find it. I just
Hmm.
kind of, oh, I read this book, find a group. Okay, I'll find it online, and met Eddie, and I'm thinking back to just the journey of just how meeting you and the guys in the group have just led to tremendous growth. I
Mm.
was actually I made a video on my YouTube channel regarding the karaoke night that we did,
Oh, yeah.
but
Yeah.
that in itself, like that community that I was a part of, we all set out to slay the same dragon and challenge ourselves
Mm.
to become better individuals. And that challenge was to go out into karaoke bar and sing and not rely on any crutches like alcohol or anything like that. And just
Yeah.
looking back at that moment, like that played a pivotal role in my growth in terms of self-discovery, because what I realized was I'm going to do this thing that terrifies me, and I'm not going to use a crutch like alcohol, and I'm going to do it, and I'm going to have fun, and I
Mm.
have guys here that are supporting me, and I have community of guys here that are supporting me to help me do that.
Mm.
And I think the one thing that I'm hearing acting has helped you kind of understand is compassion and being able to put yourself in the other person's shoe. And I was thinking about my parents. So let me make a long story short.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
I've been able to forgive, no, I don't say forgive my parents, or have a better understanding of them, and realizing how fortunate I am to have the upbringing that I've had, because my
Mm.
parents didn't know everything that I thought they should have known as parents,
Mm.
right? Because we
Yeah.
tend to put
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
them, we don't see them as the individual, kind of like how the woman at Starbucks, I didn't, you see your parents as mom and dad, not as the individuals that they are, right? And I
Right.
think,
That's
yeah,
loaded.
yeah,
Mom and dad.
it's,
It's
it's
loaded.
yeah, it's
Right?
huge. And I think one thing that acting and being in the men's group and kind of like looking at everything full circle allowed me to really accept my parents for all of their flaws and everything that they've done, because they've done everything that they could have done with the knowledge that they had.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
can you touch a bit on the importance of community, the importance of surrounding yourself with people that are like minded, and how setting out intentionally to do those things can have positive reference points? Another thing that you dropped on me in the past, and how those taking those intentional steps can have ripple effects throughout your life. Can you just share a little bit on how that's?
Yeah. Ooh. I mean, I'll try.
I'm sorry, I
I
don't mean to
think
like. I just
no.
really had that thought, and just everything full
It's a great
circle.
question.
Just like, it's amazing how
Yeah.
that one intention has kind of acted as a
Mm.
catalyst to like kind of throw me, even just the fact we're having this conversation right now on the podcast. It's something I would have never thought I've ever done.
And just and forgive me. So when you say that one intention, can you remind me
Just
what?
at least for
The,
me, there's the intention of going out into the men's group. And
oh,
then the
okay.
example was
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
men's
Yeah.
group allowed me to do the acting and then the karaoke, and realizing
Mm-hmm.
that, oh wow, it wasn't really about the karaoke, it's about having community. Because I have a group of guys
Yeah.
that were there with me, that they were my buffer, when in the past alcohol would have been my buffer. And
Oh, yeah.
how that is, that experience has made like almost ripple effects in my life that allowed me to do other things where I would have never saw myself doing a fashion show, like the speedo thing that we talked about in the men's group. Like if
Yeah.
people only knew,
Yeah. I'll have to
yeah.
interview you. Yeah.
But just
That's for
that
sure.
one initial intention of wanting to
Mm-hmm.
be around like-minded people had such a ripple effect in my life. Can you just share how an intention that you made, or a seed that you've planted in the past, that has blown up into something fruitful in your present?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think I'll just start by saying how hyper individualistic our society is, and how I think we've lost so much community.
Hmm.
Um, and I won't get into this now, but I spent some time alone in nature recently, and I never had that much appreciation for humans when I came back to meet them after I was out in nature, and I realized that there are things that I can't control, and
Hmm.
so we like to think we can control everything, and it seems like I'm not answering your question, but I I sort of am, in that um, you think you're all in control of your life, but then you put yourself out by yourself in nature, and then you have an experience of life, but you're also in a way, you can't help your craving for social contact.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that you cannot control. It's beyond you, and it's something that's, you know, we've evolved to really need. If you were to put somebody in solitary confinement, well, they're not going to be okay. They're not, and so you need community. You need people. Like we've been talking about, how relationships reflect things about you, and they hold a mirror to you. And so I think when you're really in the presence of somebody else, you feel seen. You see them, and there's some sort of that in that reflection. There's some sort of obviously there's tremendous positive emotions if you're around the kinds of people that you want to be around, but it feeds you, and it's something that we need, and it's very important. We don't have a lot of that, and I can tell you that if I hadn't had that community in the men's group, and selfishly I did put that together for me because I needed it, and it turned out to be very beneficial for others. But yeah, there's just no way I would be the same guy that I am today, and that's necessary, as Dr. Glover talks about. He says you can't go at this alone. It's not like he's the only one who says this,
Mm-hmm.
but in your path to recovery and whatever it is that you're dealing with, I mean, let's just call it life, you need to be around people. And I think we've lost a lot of that. And so, like I told you, I have a dear friend of mine, um, he who I met in some very interesting way, actually, in being very social and putting myself out there. But he's become somewhat of a mentor to me in unexpected ways. And I think I have friends of varying ages, uh, people who are younger than me, people who are in their 40s, 50s, 60s. I know someone who's 80, who's a dear friend of mine, who's a yeah, dear mentor of mine. And why is it that I have all these people in my life? And I think it's because, well, we've lost touch with community and being in the tribe. and
Mm-hmm.
and I think when we were in the tribe, there were just you were just useful in these different ways, and there were elders and babies and people of all sorts of ages, and you would interact with them on a regular basis, and you would be known and integrated in the community. And well, we don't have that. We spend a lot of time on our
Yeah.
own. We're hyper individualistic. We want to make things work on our own. We all want to just be on our computers and start our company, and become rich, and then make it to the Forbes
Which still
magazine. Or
requires people to.
it's still, and it's funny, it still requires people. And somebody told me a long time ago, I'm not quoting this, I did not come up with this, but she said, don't personalize your successes or failures. And I realized, yeah, you in whatever successes I've had in my life, I can't personalize them. It wasn't just me who did it, even though it may seem like it was just me. Well, I was just living my life, doing my own thing. Well, absolutely not. We're really interconnected. It seems like we're not, but we are. And so all this to say, I think we've just lost a deep element of community, and yeah, and that's why I think that's what started the idea for the men's group, because I was just extremely isolated before that, and very secretive, and kept things hidden inside and in my head. And so anyway, I mean, I have a lot more to say on the topic, but I'm just rambling on here. But just to say that I think that at some point of the past, we were part of a tribe, and we were just useful in unexpected
Mm-hmm.
ways. If you were you had great dexterity and good workmanship skills, like you were just very good with building things. Well, somebody in the community would notice, and they would say, why don't you come and help me build this boat? And then you would feel this positive emotion from having
Contribute.
contributed,
Yeah.
and you would feel satisfaction. And I think now we have a bit of a purpose crisis, where people aren't sure what to do with their lives, and it's like, well, what's my purpose? Well, we have a lot of talents, but we're just not in a community, and we're not able to share these parts of ourselves. And I just think that's a big missing component, and a big part on why a big reason why I think it's important for, if you're moving into a new city, or or even in your own city, if you don't have um, a group of guy friends or just a group of friends that you can confide in, it's just a very necessary thing to have. And yeah, I just think we're missing a lot of that. That's all. And it seems to be replaced by social
Social
media and
media.
all that crap, and which is just a slice of reality. And I just remember meeting you in Toronto and unexpectedly hanging out with you for like
Yeah.
6 hours, and it was just like amazing to just sit down and reconnect.
And the funny thing is,
And
I always get in trouble with my girlfriend because I put my phone upside down, do not disturb, and I'm like, time doesn't exist.
yeah, yeah.
I get in trouble more times than I can count.
Yeah, well, it's what you have to do. And yeah, I think one more thought on that is, I heard this in some other podcast, so again, not my thought, but it was very interesting, and it was just talking about how they were talking about how most conversations these days between people are asynchronous, whereas what you and I are doing right now is a synchronous communication. It's happening in real
Mm-hmm.
time. But most conversations now are asynchronous. It's like you send me this little message, and then I can think
I
exactly
see. Yeah.
about what it is that I want to write back to you, and I can take 10 minutes or an hour or a day. And it's just it's very asynchronous. And I think we've just lost touch about what it is like to be in the presence of others. And yeah, and it varies from culture to culture. And obviously, this is cross cultural, this whole social media
Mm-hmm.
phenomenon. It's happening all over the world. But I could tell you, I was just traveling in South America and Argentina. And yeah, the culture there is just a lot different. They like to go out and eat regularly and be together,
Yeah.
and just such a necessary part of being
And
healthy
being
and
human, like
alive.
you
Being
need
human.
that. And I
Yeah.
think that's been like the biggest thing with everything, like on the artistic side. The self-expression, yes, it helps me kind of get my thoughts out and share what's going on in my head and in my world, but at the end of the day, like it's for everybody else. This
Yeah.
gift or this thing isn't mine. It's meant to be
Oh, I love
shared.
it.
I had
Yeah.
my I had a this, I think the first office that I moved into, I had printed a whole bunch of canvases and had my whole wall like just like artwork on the wall all over the place. And one day I was just like staring at them like, no, like I'm not supposed to like just have my art for myself. I just gave everything away.
Yeah.
Because it's
Yeah.
just
It's not
it's not
yours.
mine. It's not mine. And I think with everything kind of coming full circle, it's been able to take these experiences and give them to other people. And I,
Yeah.
you know what? Ale from the men's group, he was with us for a short time, and he passed
Mm.
without much. It's kind of out of the blue, but
Not much
yeah.
warning.
And in the short time that he was part of the group, he he said, and I still to this day credit him for a
Mm.
lot of the work that I'm doing now with children's books. He said children, the kids that he was a grade school teacher, and he's like, these are the citizens of the future, like the citizens of tomorrow. Like I have to show up for them. And I remember just hearing that, and with him being in our lives for such a short period of time, like that was one thing that just stuck with me. And I have
Mm.
him to kind of, I do a lot of the work that I'm doing with the children's book in honor of him. For the fact he was in our lives for like what I think 2 or 3 months, he was part of the group.
Mm.
But
What a
yeah,
gift.
it just goes to show like somebody could show up into your life for a split second and just automatically like change your whole trajectory.
Yeah.
So it goes back
What
to
a
needing human interactions. But yeah,
Yeah.
it,
Very touching.
mm-hmm,
Very touching. I feel it. I just feel
mm-hmm,
tingly all over my body. Just how whatever his legacy is, who knows? But he's affected you in such a deep
yeah,
way, in ways that he wasn't even aware of. And let's honor him. And it's it's just amazing.
mm-hmm. And for me, is the least that I can do, because that really, especially for me at that time, I was really like in the depths of the shadow work. We'll call it that. I wouldn't call it depression. It was more shadow work, and coming to the realization that there's certain parts of myself that I don't like, and certain parts of myself that exist that I didn't even know that was there. Um, and I think out of that was just mainly just the fact that I was kind of like lost. I didn't have the purpose, but just hearing these little nuggets and having, that's what saying the intention, like just the fact that I even we set out to participate in this group, like that changed my life. Like, so I say that
Yeah.
to say to everybody listening that, like, set some intentions and go out and look for community if you don't have any, because that can be the one thing that'll change your life, and hopefully get you on track to finding your purpose, or at least thinking about things and ways you can help everybody else and add something to the world.
Yeah. It's so important. And on that note, I'll share this very quick story, but it's kind of an interesting story. Um, I was at the just to, how you can trace things back to a single moment in
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
Well, I was at the library and I sneezed, and some girl said "bless you," and then we started to talk, and then we we had a nice conversation. I kept seeing her time and again. I don't know, 5 6 times, and we had a nice conversation, and then she told me that she was going to see the sunset here in the city in New York, in Manhattan Henge, and how like it happens once a year, and the sunset aligns
Oh
with
yeah,
the the
yeah, yeah,
streets.
yeah. It's
Yeah,
crazy. I just saw like a TikTok a couple of days ago. Just
yeah,
insane.
yeah. It's I mean, I didn't get to see it unfortunately because it was a cloudy day. But here's the cool part of the story. I ended up, you know, went to the bathroom of the library. I saw her in the stairwell, and she said, "Hey, I'm going to see Manhattan Edge." And I said, "Oh, cool." And she said, "Do you want some company? Like I've never been." And she gave me her number, and then I texted her, and then she never got back to me. And I thought, okay, well that's okay. Maybe she's out with friends. I gave her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe she just changed her mind. Whatever, I have no idea. But thanks to that interaction, I learned about Manhattan Henge, and I thought, well, I'm absolutely going out to see this. And so I did, and I went out on the street and just started to talk to people on the street. And then there was this girl, and we started to talk about Manhattan Engine. There was a whole group of people, and they were like, "Where is it? Is it, when's it happening?" And anyway, it was at like 8:28, and well, 8:28 surely rolled around, and the sun wasn't there because it was sunny. And so then, yeah, this girl was really nice. She just looked at me. She said, "Well, what's next?" And I thought, gosh, I don't know. And then she just said, "You want to get a drink?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And so we ended up hanging out for a good 3 hours. And it turns out she was born on my birthday, which was a kind of a cool
Wow.
thing. We both have the same birthday, and we just went out for a drink and had like a really nice time. And now I know somebody else in the city, and that all happened from like a sneeze. I just sneezed, and someone said "bless you," and I could have just said "thanks," but then I just said, instead of just saying "thanks," I said "thanks," and then I said something like, "Do you come out here often? Is this like your library of choice?" And then we interacted, and then one thing led to
Yeah.
the next, and then before I know it, somehow that interaction led me to meet somebody else on the street, and I have a new friend. So it's just from that, I realized that life happens in the social realm. You can't be home doing nothing. It's just like you need to be talking to
Hmm.
people. And well, now I forget how why I remember this story, but something you had said, it triggered this
The
memory. So
intention.
the intention,
Hmm.
yeah. So just to be in, if you're intentional about how you want to live your life, and you want to put yourself out there and connect with people in different ways, and do it. Take that moment and really see somebody, and you never know where it's going to lead to. But if you don't do anything, well, forget it.
That you perfectly illustrated exactly what I was talking about with the ripple effect, and how just like a sneeze, can like take you to meeting somebody that happens to be sharing the same birthday as you, right? That's insane.
It's
That's
incredible. It's
insane.
insane. I mean, you know, it was cool. It wasn't like I needed her to have the same birthday as me, but it was so cool how we just had this
Hmm.
connection. She's like, "When's your birthday?" You know, and I'm like, "Get out of here! This is insane. You have the same birthday as me." And that was just this cool connection that we shared. Like we were. It just made for the interaction. Not that I needed that to happen, but it was just a cool thing. You know, it is an unexpected thing, and to share a birthday. So
Oh my god.
just very cool.
Oh,
Anyway,
Eddie, it has been. We can talk for like hours, but I got to be mindful of the time.
of course.
Um, is there anything else you'd want to share? Anything on the top of your mind, or anything that stood out, or
No, it's just been interesting what's been uncovered, and how, you know, this thing around intentionality came about. We, you know, obviously had no script here, and yeah, that's just what I love about connecting with people and having a conversation, and of course, who knows what's going to come of this. I'm going to think about this later, and so yeah, it's just wonderful. So no, I think intentionality, and no, and it's just been great to talk to you, and just to remember, uh, yeah, just when you brought up Ale and how he passed away, and he was in the group, and how that impacted you.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, just all of those things, and how they came about, and just tracing things back in
Yeah,
time and to certain decisions, right? So, but who knows? Maybe it all started with like a butterfly fluttering its wings in Africa, and
yeah.
something like you know, it has nothing to do with what with what I thought. It was just like a butterfly in like Senegal.
Oh man.
No, thanks so much. I really enjoyed this, and I hope to see you. Hope to see you
Oh, for
soon.
sure, most
Talk
definitely,
some more.
man. Whenever you're coming to Toronto, let me know and clear my schedule for the next 8 hours.
Me too. Absolutely.
Beautiful. But the last thing I want to say is, I think if you've been listening to this point, I think it's important to understand the importance of positive reference points. That's one thing that at least I try to do during this podcast. Not even intentionally, just kind of pops up. But there's many moments that we shared in the group that I can refer back to whenever I'm going through like a doubtful moment, or wherever I'm feeling insecure. I can be like, oh yeah, I did this thing with these guys that helped me get over or overcome certain things. And I think a lot of the time we tend not to think about those moments where we did accomplish those, or we did make those victories. We did go into the cave and slay the dragon without having to use alcohol or whatnot. And I encourage people to hold on to those positive reference points
Mm.
throughout their lives, and use those as moments to fuel your self-esteem internally without having to rely on external validation.
Hmm.
Because a lot of times when you're waiting for that external validation, if it doesn't show up, you're left sitting there twiddling your thumbs. So um, I always
Yeah.
encourage people to do that. But yeah, Eddie, thank you so much for hopping on. It's been a while. We've been waiting for this for a minute, and I'm glad I've been finally able to connect with you. Um,
Me too. Thanks. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's good to talk to you as
and
always.
what are some of your plans for the future, and where can people find you if you want them to?
Yeah. Well, I'm putting together. I think finally, after being blocked for probably a couple of years, I'm gonna put this out there. My website on asserting myself at www.assertingmyself.com. So it's still not out, but it's some of the work that I'd done at Hard House. I'd run some workshops there on assertiveness, and so I wanted to give some of that privately, and so I should have that website at some point soon. But other than that, I'm not really very much on social media and out there. So I think probably that website whenever it's out.
Okay, perfect. All right. Thank
Yeah.
you once again, Eddie, for joining us on another episode of Uncovering Creativity.
Thanks so
No
much,
worries.
brother.
right, bye, guys.